Good morning and welcome to Zinc House Farm Apiary. Today we're going to do a hive inspection of a Langstroth hive. This apiary has 5 hives. 3 of them face an eastern direction, 2 of them face a southern direction. When I come to look at a hive for the first time for an inspection, I tend to look at the front and see if I can see any bees coming in and out of this particular hive. This hive has an entrance reducer because it is not a newer hive, but it's not a very strong hive. So we're going to be working with this hive over the next couple of weeks to see if we can strengthen this particular hive. All of the other hives in this apiary all have had their entrance reducers removed to give them an opportunity to move in and out. Given the high temperatures that we're having in the valley, that also helps them with cooling. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this lid, which is called a telescoping lid. We're going to follow that with the removal of what we call the inner cover. The inner cover allows the bees to walk across the top of the bars of the frames in this particular hive. It also helps with ventilation. Now I can see in my first examination that the top of this hive has plenty of bees on it, and so in this particular case we're doing pretty well. I'm going to give it a couple of smokes, a couple of puffs of smoke, and as you can see the activity increases a little bit and the bees begin to move down into the hive. This gives me the opportunity to work on this particular hive, to check out the frames without the bees thinking that I'm an intruder. When I work on an inspection, I typically take out the second frame in a hive. This particular Langstroth hive has 9 frames and an in-hive feeder. Later today we're going to be putting some sugar water syrup in there to help them have some energy so they can begin to build more honeycomb. As you can see on this particular frame, which is the first one I've taken out, there's a few bees, and there is a little evidence, but not much, that the bees are doing anything to build new honeycomb. I'm careful not to squish any of the bees so that that's easy for them. On this particular frame, I think you can see that there are some indentations in these areas here. This was an old frame that had some damage to it, and I cut out the damage, and so now the bees are working on this particular frame and trying to repair this particular damage. This is our first frame where we can see that there is covered brood, that the queen has been on this one, that she laid eggs turned into larvae, and the larva is now in a pupa stage, getting ready to be real live bees. Also on this particular frame, we can see down here in the bottom, let me blow these away. We can see on the bottom down here, in this particular case, we can see that there's larvae down in this particular area, and a little bit farther south on this particular frame, we can see that there are some new eggs. We look over on the other side and we see some of the same things. We see that in this particular area here, there are a lot of eggs, followed by some larvae, followed by a little bit of covered brood. This one is also covered with a lot of worker bees and not a lot of drones. What we're looking for now is we're looking for the queen to see if we can find her. So this particular frame, as you can see, is just covered with covered brood. Inside here in this space, some of the outer spaces here, there is some pollen that they have stored. Up in this area in here, there is some nectar and some fresh honey that they are beginning to set aside for their winter stores. All the way down this particular side at the top here is lots of pollen. And again, this particular frame is primarily covered with worker bees. On the other side, we have sort of the same kind of thing. We have some pollen stored up in here. We have some larvae over here. And most of this particular frame is covered brood. In this particular hive, there are 9 frames. Usually there are 10 frames, but because we have the in-hive feeder, we're only able to put in 9 frames. So let's see if we can find the queen. Again, on this one, we can see that in this particular area here, we have lots of pollen. You can see by the different colors of yellow. Over here we have some larvae that has been some larvae that is growing. We have some covered brood. A little bit of nectar is being stored. This is mostly worker bees again, not very many drones. And again, on this particular side, what we see is the same kind of activity. So again, a frame one more time, same thing, same as we're seeing, lots of larvae, lots of eggs, lots of covered brood. And on this side, we can actually see the queen. And the queen is located right here. She's the bee with the white dot on her. I'm hoping that you can see that. I'm going to try and bring this just a little bit closer, and hopefully you can see it, and hopefully my self-videography is helping you with that. But as you can see, the queen is here, and she's working her way across the top of the frame, looking for an appropriate place to deposit an egg. So that I don't damage the queen anymore, I'm going to go ahead and put this frame back in. And because we have found the queen, and we have found evidence that she is doing the job we want her to do, we're going to go ahead and close this hive up. Put all the frames back in again. And normally when I do a hive inspection, I'm either looking for the queen or I'm looking for evidence that the queen is in this particular hive. In this case, we've seen both. We've seen the queen, and we've seen evidence that the queen is a healthy queen laying eggs. So we put the inner cover back on. We put the telescoping lid back on, and then we walk away to do another hive.